Hello, and welcome to another video. If you are new here, welcome. I'm Lisa. I'm a financial advisor, have been for over 14 years, and we help people get to financial freedom as quickly as possible. That is the goal of the video. So today I wanted to go through a Fidelity email that was sent to me with an article. And the article was what to know about investing through volatility. Now, I don't work for Fidelity, but they do have a really good email newsletter for women in particular. And some of them I'm like, it's kind of boring. This one I think is interesting. I think it had some really good talking points. So we're going to go through it and see what takeaways we can take from it and see if we can learn something, because if anything, and again, this is not a political statement, but when Trump is in office, President Trump, I should say, is in office, things tend to be a little bit more volatile in the markets. He moves quickly on things, whether you like that or you don't like that. It's not a comment on that. And essentially, markets tend to move with him pretty fast. So that comes from markets being uncertain. Right now, we're still in the middle of the tariff stuff. It's June of 2025, and there's still some question of whether the tariffs are going to work out or not. So there's always some volatility. We've had a nice, I wouldn't say surge, but a little ticks up since the mayhem in April of 2025 for Liberation Day. But I do think, this is not over. There will always be some turmoil in the markets, especially with this president in office. Like I said, he does a lot very quickly, and whether you like that or you don't like that, the markets tend to react quickly. So it's always good to have a plan in place when you know that there are going to be turmoil in the markets. And so I thought this was a really good article coming out to help women in particular stay on track, because we women are more emotional. We tend to take in more information than men do in terms of watching the news, listening to the news, news on our feed, that kind of thing. Not that men aren't interested in the news, but they're more focused. I've noticed that they find certain areas and certain people that they listen to, whereas women are a little bit more general in their news consumption. And so it's interesting because we get lots of different information, and it can be hard to know what to do. And so I do tend to get more of my female clients calling and being concerned during bad times in the market. Let's put it that way. So, and you've heard me say this before, the media itself does not help in terms of the financial media does not help during times like this, because they play into it because they like making money during that time, unfortunately. So let's go through their 5 main points. I'm not going to read the article for you. I will have a link in the description of the article so you can read it yourself. I'm just going to go through the main headline, and I'm not going to necessarily talk about what they say. I'm going to give my opinion on it. I hope that's okay with you. But I thought this was a good jumping off point. So first is to check or create your financial plan. I thought this is what stuck out to me the most, because most of the time, Fidelity is a financial institution. They like investing. Obviously, they make money that way. And so their first thing wasn't talking about investing. It was talking about creating your financial plan, which I think is so important. And so many people don't do that. They only think about investing, getting their money in the market, that kind of thing. And I always say to clients when they come to me, or I guess prospects in this case, when they come to me, it's easier for me to give you advice on how to invest when we know what we're doing in terms of having a plan, having a big discussion about what is this money for. Money doesn't just sit there to sit there. It's there for a reason. You have a plan for it. And creating a plan is really important, and keeping that plan up to date. You don't just create the plan once and then never look at it again. I've had clients call and they want to make job changes. I have one in particular who just talked to me the other day about this, and they having their plan up to date or just easily able to update it very quickly, on the phone or on a Zoom call or whatever, helps give some light to those situations. And I was able to tell this person that they would be fine if they made a job change. And that's what planning does. It allows you to live as free as possible in terms of being able to make choices, right? And that's what financial freedom is all about, is just being able to make choices and know your guardrails, essentially. Is it perfect? Am I 100% sure this won't be a problem for this client? No, but I have a much better sense now that we have a plan and that we can keep going back to the plan and looking at it and changing it and tweaking it and making different suggestions. Maybe we're not getting the rate of return we expected. Should we be doing something different? That's what a plan does. And a plan is there during times of turmoil in the market to help you get through those times. And maybe you should be making changes. There's been talk about like, oh, should I be making changes to my portfolio now since I didn't like what was happening in April? Yeah, this is a much better time to make changes. You don't want to make changes when the market is down. You tend to want to make changes when the market has recovered, and we're kind of in a recovery period, so therefore this might be a good time to do that. And so that's one of the things, is to make sure you create a plan. And if you haven't created a plan, make sure you create a plan. And if you have already created a plan, check that plan. It's not a one and done thing. It should be checked and updated pretty regularly. And those are the conversations I love having. Not that I don't like talking about the markets and stuff, but having a discussion about your plan and how it's been affected by things is one of my favorite things to do with clients. I love that. Number 2 is boost your emergency fund. So I heard a gentleman talking. He's in a news program that I've heard a lot, and he was saying that the difference between U.S. and China when we are going through turmoil and economic hurt, which both countries need each other for trade, obviously, but China has been noted as having some issues economically as well. He was saying, we have, as Americans, we have reserves. We've saved money. We've done, we have things to go to in a time of recession, whereas the Chinese don't have that as a common thing in terms of just the normal civilization, which I found that interesting. I did a little research, and it turns out that that's pretty correct. So, having that emergency fund, or having, I would say, not just an emergency fund, but liquidity, is very important during tumultuous times in the market, because you don't know. There's one here that's just driving me crazy. Okay, sorry. You don't know what could happen during a time. You might just be steady hand, slow, steady, no problem. And then something comes up and you need money, medical emergency, something happens and you need money. You need to be able to go get some. So an emergency fund typically is a cash equivalence. That's 3 to 6 months at least. I would say 6 months is probably better for most people. I would say up to a year if you're a small business owner, especially if you have employees, because you're going to go through ups and downs in the business, of course. But I would also say you should have some accounts that are liquid that you can get to, so that you're not dealing with the 59.5 issue with your 401k or your IRA or all that stuff. Now, you do have the loan provision on your 401k you could utilize. That does take some time, though. It's not super fast. Whereas if you have a liquid account, you could make those sales and get money pretty quickly. So having liquidity, a good emergency fund, is important, because we just don't know when those dips in the market are going to be. And especially if you're taking out money on a regular basis, like you're in retirement, you do want to have some liquidity, some cash equivalents to get you through down times in the market, because you don't necessarily want to take from a down account if you don't have to. So why not plan for that? Okay, number 3, invest consistently even when it's tough. So I get a lot of questions, and like I said, this president tends to be pretty politically charged in terms of people either love him or they hate him. I have clients on both sides. And, you know, during the Liberation Day slump that we had, I had many people calling and saying, I was supposed to make a contribution, but maybe I should hold off. Maybe it should be held in cash. Maybe we should wait. And it's difficult when you see the market dropping. You're like, why would I be putting money into this market? There's a couple things though people forget. There's that old saying, you buy low and you sell high. I almost said the opposite. You buy low, you sell high. Technically, you would be buying low if you were buying on the 5th of April, 2025. How low is it going to go? We don't know. Nobody knows the answer to that. Could we have that happen again? Possibly. So essentially, you just don't know. But having that consistency of putting money in and investing it is the right move. There's a reason that there is this thing called dollar cost averaging. And basically what that is think of your 401k. Every 2 weeks, money comes out of your paycheck, goes into the 401k, and gets automatically invested. Every 2 weeks, like clockwork. And whether the market's up or the market's down, it happens. And the theory behind dollar cost averaging like that is that you will actually end up buying more shares on a discount by doing that than trying to time the market necessarily. Now, I do think that there are smart ways to get into the market and not so smart ways. Like I do have clients that make consistent contributions, and do I sit there and put it in right when the market's super high? No, but I'm also not going to let that money sit there for 5 months because the market's too high. Like you have to have that kind of give and take. And we have, you know, even in a good time in the market, we do have days that are not so great. That might be a good time to push into the market. Is that perfect? No. I mean, sometimes you push into the market and it goes down again the next day and you're like, oh, but you still got in lower. So if you feel like you cannot necessarily time the market, or you get upset about that whole thing, which most people do, honestly, then I would say this is a great tactic, which is this dollar cost averaging, meaning every 2 weeks, every month, whatever the amount, you know, the time period you're putting in, and put it in and invest it, no matter what it is. Maybe it's the 5th of every month. Maybe it's the 5th and the 20th of every month. Whatever it is, that would probably be your slow and steady hand, and you will be happy that you continue to do that. So I do agree with them on that. Get help if and when needed. So I'm surprised at how many people do not reach out to me, meaning my clients, do not reach out to me when they are going through a tough period. Some do, a lot don't. A lot of people, I don't even know they bought a house, and they bought a house and sold their house, and I talked to them, I'm like, oh, probably would have been good to have a conversation during that time, you know? People forget that we're here to help with the planning aspect and to bring up things that maybe you haven't thought about before, like capital gains tax, you know, judging all that stuff, thinking about that if you buy and sell a house as part of that, right? So there's different things out there that we do, you know, have some little bit of, I wouldn't say a leg up. In some respects we do though, because I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of conversations a year versus you have yourself and maybe a couple of outlets that you're looking at to get some help. So why not take advantage of the fact that advisors do have that conversation, those repeated conversations, those different scenarios that they can pull from. And not just that, if I don't know something, I'm not going to tell you, oh yeah, I'm an expert in that. I have a whole crew of people I can go to and say, who can I bring in for this? How can I get some help with this? That is something that you might not have access to. So reach out. Even I would rather a client reach out even if it's not something I can help with than not reach out at all. And I think you should do the same for your advisors. If you have a financial advisor, if you have CPA, whoever you have that helps you with your finance life, be sure to reach out to them pretty regularly with questions and things. I know you think that you're irritating us, but you're really not. So And then number 5, which I think is a really good one, which is keep perspective. So keeping in mind, so I had like I told you during this time, I have clients that love Trump, hate Trump, whatever. I kept hearing this same thing being said, which is that there was a new world order happening. And I don't know if that was from the media or what happened, right? I don't know where this came from. I didn't read it anywhere, so I don't know where it is. And I would say more than COVID. And they had not thought about that. I'm not trying to challenge them or tell them that they're wrong or that Trump's doing the right thing or he's not doing the right thing. That was not my point. My point was in 2020, the whole economy was shutting down, not just of the United States, but of the entire world. And people were staying at home, people weren't working, people weren't going out and buying things. Like it was, that was a world order shift, right? And it has changed our world order. It's certainly changed mine in some respects. I went completely virtual from that point, working with clients, which is lovely. I love doing it, and I can get back to clients much faster than driving around Orange County, California, where I was doing my practice there. So essentially, we have to keep perspective on things. There's a lot of that media that comes out and makes us all hyped up and excited, maybe in a good way and maybe in a bad way. But you have to keep perspective on things. 5 years ago, that was a world order change. This, with the tariffs, it could definitely have an impact on our economy, depending on how it goes. But is it a world order change? I don't know. I don't know if we could say that yet. And so just keep perspective on things. Keep going back onto different times. Does the market always recover? It has in the past. It doesn't mean that will happen in the future. But we have some data on things that possibly, the markets will recover fast or won't recover fast. Don't let 1 or 2 days completely throw you off of your overall arching perspective. I hope that helps. So with that, I think it's really good to have this kind of stuff in place during good times in the market, so that during down times in the market, you can rely on this stuff. So I really do recommend you go and take a look at this article, maybe have it on your desktop or on your phone so you can look at it during tumultuous times, because we will have them again. So I hope that helps. Let me know your thoughts. If there's other articles you'd like me to, my perspective on, feel free to send them over. My information is in the description box as usual. And until next time, stay strong, stay happy, and we will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.